Have you ever caught yourself wondering if you're raising your child to be grateful, or entitled? It's a fear almost every parent quietly carries. We want to give our kids the best, but how do we do that without spoiling them? How do we raise children who are generous, humble, responsible, in a world that constantly screams, more? Now. That's where this book begins. Ron Lieber opens chapter 1 by acknowledging that talking to kids about money feels uncomfortable for many parents. We might feel we don't know enough, or that it's inappropriate, or we worry it will make them materialistic. But he flips that idea on its head. He argues that money is actually one of the best tools we have to teach kids about values. Why? Because how we earn, save, spend, give, and even talk about money reveals what really matters to us, whether that's generosity, patience, humility, gratitude, or responsibility. Lieber defines spoiled not as having too many things, but as lacking traits like gratitude, curiosity, patience, or empathy. And the opposite of spoiled? A child who understands money, values effort, and doesn't equate stuff with happiness. The key message in this first chapter is this. Don't avoid money conversations, lean into them. Because every time your child asks, "Are we rich? Why don't I have what my friend has?" or "Why can't I buy that?" they're opening a door to talk about deeper things, not just dollars and cents. Lieber encourages parents to embrace those moments instead of brushing them off. And if we don't know the answer, that's okay. It's okay to say, "I don't know, but let's figure it out together." That humility and honesty teach more than we realize. The chapter gently challenges parents to shift from protecting kids from money conversations to using them as teachable moments. Because whether we talk about it or not, our children are already forming beliefs about money, from what they observe at home, at school, and from the media. So instead of being silent, let's be intentional. Let's use money to talk about things like gratitude, why we're thankful for what we have. Generosity, how and why we give. Patience, why we sometimes wait before buying. Discipline, how we make decisions that align with our values. And that's the heart of chapter 1. Money isn't just about numbers. Chapter 2 dives deeper into why parents often avoid talking about money, and why we shouldn't. Ron Lieber gently explains that silence around money doesn't protect our kids. Instead, it leaves them confused, curious, and often misinformed. He starts by showing how kids are constantly exposed to money-related experiences. They see you swipe your card and walk out with groceries. They hear adults talk about bills, rent, or stress at the end of the month. They notice who has new shoes or the latest phone at school. And when we avoid those conversations, they fill in the blanks themselves, often with wrong or shallow assumptions. Lieber encourages us to ask ourselves, what do we want our kids to know about money? And what kind of relationship do we want them to have with it? Because if we stay silent, their views will be shaped by advertising, peer pressure, or misunderstandings. He also points out a truth many of us feel but don't say out loud. We're afraid of saying too much. We don't want to brag, overshare, or make our kids anxious. But Lieber reassures us, we can be open without overloading them. And in fact, when we talk about money calmly, clearly, and with values in mind, it strengthens trust and builds emotional security. The chapter gives parents permission to say, "We're not buying that because we're saving for something important." Or, "We make different choices with our money because we have different priorities." These are teachable moments, not lectures, but real, everyday conversations. And when kids ask questions like, "Are we rich?" instead of shutting it down, Lieber suggests responding with curiosity. "What makes you ask that?" This opens a thoughtful dialogue and helps kids explore their feelings about fairness, privilege, and needs versus wants. One of the most powerful ideas from this chapter is this. Talking about money isn't about giving numbers. It's about giving context. It's about helping kids understand why we make the choices we do, what we value, how we plan, and why we say yes to some things and no to others. And when children grow up in a home where money is discussed honestly, not with shame or secrecy, but with purpose, they develop confidence, clarity, and gratitude. So, if you've ever wondered, should I talk to my kids about how much we make, or what things cost? This chapter encourages you to start small, not with full bank statements, but with honest, age-appropriate conversations that connect money to your family's values. The book begins to get practical. Now that we've embraced the why behind money conversations, Chapter 3 focuses on how to actually begin them, especially around the idea of allowance. This chapter explores a common question many parents have. Should I give my child an allowance? And if so, how much, and why? Ron Lieber isn't offering a one-size-fits-all formula, but he makes a strong case for using allowance as a teaching tool, not a reward system. For many families, allowance is tied to chores. But Lieber suggests a different approach. Allowance should be a way to practice money management, not a payment for basic responsibilities. In other words, don't think of it as, you clean your room, you get money. Instead, view allowance as a kind of training ground, a safe space where kids can make small money decisions now, so they're better prepared for big ones later. Lieber encourages parents to start as early as age 5 or 6 with small amounts of money and introduce 3 basic categories. Spend, save, give. These 3 jars, or envelopes, or digital categories, form the foundation of financial character. The spend jar allows for quick decisions and gratification. The save jar teaches patience and goal setting. And the give jar, perhaps the most important, invites your child to think beyond themselves. What's most powerful about this system is that it isn't about how much money you give, it's about how often you talk about it and what lessons you tie to it. Lieber gives examples of children who get a few dollars each week. Over time, they learn that buying a toy now might mean not having enough for a birthday gift later. Or that saving up for something they truly want feels more satisfying than spending impulsively. And when they give, whether it's to a food pantry, a friend in need, or a cause they care about, it helps them see money not as just for themselves, but as a way to do good. The chapter also reminds us that mistakes are part of the process. If your child spends all their spend money on something cheap that breaks the next day, don't rescue them. Let it be a soft failure. That sting becomes a teacher, far more effective than a lecture. And perhaps one of the most freeing messages in this chapter is this. Allowance doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be intentional. Even if you start late, start messy, or adjust as you go, what matters is that your child is learning through doing. So instead of fearing allowance, we can use it as a tool to build confidence, character, and clarity. It's not about spoiling or indulging, it's about equipping our children to make wise, thoughtful decisions with money, while we're still close enough to guide them. And that's where this chapter leaves us, not with pressure, but with possibility. The possibility of turning allowance into something far more valuable than cash, a way to raise responsible, generous, build a strong foundation with money habits through allowance. Chapter 4 shifts the focus to gratitude, and how money can be one of the most powerful ways to teach it. Gratitude, Ron Lieber explains, isn't just about saying thank you. It's about developing a mindset that recognizes how fortunate we are, and making peace with the fact that others may have more or less than we do. This chapter opens with a truth every parent feels at some point. We want our kids to appreciate what they have, without us having to lecture them. But gratitude can't be forced. You can't just tell a child, you should be grateful, and expect it to stick. Instead, Lieber suggests that gratitude grows from experience, not guilt. And interestingly, money, and how we use it, can help kids start to see the world through a more grateful lens. One way to cultivate this, he says, is by exposing children to real conversations about cost. Not in a stressful or shaming way, but in an open, honest tone. For example, when buying groceries or clothes, talk about why you're choosing one brand over another. Help them understand the choices you make and the values behind them, like saving, giving, or choosing quality. You can also share moments from your own life that shaped your appreciation for what you have now. Maybe it was growing up with less, working for your first car, or saving up for something important. These stories connect generations, and show children that gratitude is built, not assumed. Another powerful idea in this chapter is that gratitude thrives in contrast. When kids are exposed to how others live, whether it's through travel, volunteering, or reading about different communities, it helps them recognize the abundance in their own lives without making them feel guilty. Lieber encourages families to create habits of reflection, especially around spending and giving. After a family purchase, ask, "How did that make us feel? Was it worth it? Would we do it again?" This kind of pause builds awareness, and over time, leads to intentional gratitude, rather than just saying the words. He also recommends regular gratitude rituals. A simple question at dinner: what was one thing you appreciated today? Writing thank you notes, not just for gifts, but for kindnesses. Even making a habit of noticing when someone did something generous or thoughtful for you, and pointing it out aloud. Gratitude, in this view, isn't just a virtue, it's a daily practice. And just like saving or spending wisely, it can be learned, modeled, and strengthened. The most touching part of this chapter is the reminder that kids don't become grateful by accident. They become grateful because we give them space to reflect. We guide them to recognize the good. And we let them experience both joy and sacrifice, so they understand what truly matters. Instead of chasing the latest gadget or trip, we can ask ourselves, how are we helping our children appreciate what they already have? Because in a world that constantly whispers more, the quiet strength of gratitude may be the most powerful gift we can give. Once kids begin to understand what money is and how to manage it with allowance, saving, and spending, Ron Lieber invites us to explore what might be the most profound lesson of all: giving. How do we raise children who are generous, not just with money, but with their hearts, their time, their attention? Lieber begins the chapter by pointing out that generosity doesn't just click one day. It grows slowly, from experience, example, and opportunity. That's why he suggests we stop treating giving as something we do only during the holidays or when disaster strikes. Instead, he encourages parents to make giving a regular part of family life, and the money conversation. If your child already has a give jar as part of their allowance system, you've laid the groundwork. But Lieber takes it a step further: help them actually use that money. Let them choose where to give. Let them feel the joy of doing something meaningful. He shares stories of kids who gave their savings to animal shelters, classmates in need, or to buy meals for the homeless, not because a parent told them to, but because they were given the power to care. That's one of the biggest lessons in this chapter. Giving should be led by the child's heart, not forced by the parent's agenda. This means letting your child explore what matters to them. Do they love animals? Want to help kids without books? Care about clean water? That's your cue. And then, make it practical. Visit the shelter together. Look up local charities. Let them ask questions. Help them deliver the gift in person, if possible. This makes the act real, not abstract. Lieber also explains how generosity becomes more meaningful when it's tied to effort. A child who works to earn their money and then chooses to give part of it away, even just a few coins, is learning a profound lesson. What I have is not just for me. This doesn't just benefit others, it changes your child. Generous children grow into adults who are more empathetic, confident, and connected to the world around them. But Lieber is careful not to turn generosity into pressure. It's not about guilt. It's not about who gives the most or looking good. Instead, it's about ownership, helping kids feel that they can make a difference, even in small ways. And perhaps most importantly, he reminds us. We have to model it. Kids are watching. If they see us give joyfully, not just out of obligation, they absorb that spirit. If they hear us talk kindly about helping others, if they see us give our time, our energy, our attention, they learn that giving isn't just something you do with money. It's something you do with gentle challenge. Make giving normal. Make it visible. And make it part of your family story. Because when kids grow up believing that their money, their effort, and their compassion have value, they won't just grow into financially wise adults, they'll grow into kind ones too. By now, we've looked at allowance, gratitude, and generosity. But what happens when kids grow up with more than enough? Or at least enough to feel comfortable, while others clearly don't? How do we talk about privilege in a way that doesn't shame them, but also doesn't blind them? Ron Lieber acknowledges this is a tricky conversation, not because kids can't understand it, but because many adults don't know how to talk about it either. He begins with a big, honest question. What do you say when your child realizes they have more than others? Maybe your child goes to a party and notices that a classmate lives in a much smaller home. Or maybe they ask why a friend wears the same clothes all the time. Maybe they see a person begging on the street and ask, why don't they just get a job? These are moments that matter, and Lieber urges us not to shut them down with discomfort. Instead, he encourages us to lean in with openness, clarity, and compassion. He reminds us, privilege is simply having advantages that others don't. It's not something to be ashamed of, but it is something to be aware of. And the earlier kids learn to see it, the more grounded and empathetic they can become. One powerful tool Lieber suggests is helping kids understand the difference between luck and effort. Yes, people work hard. But some start life with more support, better schools, safer neighborhoods, or family safety nets, and those things matter. When kids recognize that not everyone has the same starting line, they begin to develop a sense of humility, not guilt. They don't have to feel bad for what they have. But they should feel responsible for how they use it. Another strategy is exposure. Take your kids outside their bubble. Not to show them how lucky they are, but to build connection. Volunteer together. Read books or watch age-appropriate stories that show how other families live. Let them ask questions. Help them reflect. You might say something like, we don't choose where we're born. But we can choose to be kind, generous, and aware. Having more means we can do more, not to impress, but to help. Lieber also reminds us that kids compare constantly. And sometimes, your child may be the one with less. That's another opportunity to talk about values, why your family chooses not to buy the newest thing, or why you save for long-term goals instead of short-term wants. Throughout this chapter, the message is clear. Privilege should not be invisible. Because when kids understand they have it, they're more likely to share it, use it wisely, and see others through eyes of respect, not pity politics here. He's reminding us that money, fairness, and opportunity are emotional topics, and kids can handle them when we guide the conversation. So the next time your child notices differences, in homes, clothes, gadgets, or lifestyles, don't dismiss their curiosity. Use it. Invite them into the truth that life isn't fair, and that's exactly why we must live with gratitude, responsibility, and compassion. By now, we've explored how to talk with kids about allowance, generosity, and privilege, all grounded in teaching values. But Chapter 7 faces one of the toughest moments for a parent, when your child begs for something they don't need, and you don't really want to give. Maybe it's the latest phone, trendy shoes, or that flashy toy everyone's unboxing on YouTube. It can feel like every other kid has it, and if yours doesn't, they're left out. Ron Lieber names this challenge with compassion. Saying no is hard when you're afraid your child will feel different, disappointed, or deprived. But here's the truth he gently reminds us of. We're not raising children to fit in, we're raising them to stand on their values. And often, saying no isn't about withholding joy. It's about building judgment, resilience, and identity. This chapter encourages parents to pause when they feel that rush to give in and ask, what message am I sending with this yes? Will this help my child grow? Or is this just an emotional shortcut to avoid discomfort? Lieber offers an incredibly helpful strategy: teach your kids the coolness of being intentional. Rather than just saying no and walking away, engage them in a conversation. What do you like about that thing? How long do you think you'll use it? What would you give up to get it? Is there something that matters more to you? This does two things. First, it shifts the power. Now your child is thinking instead of just wanting. And second, it builds their decision-making muscles. Because even if they don't get what they want now, they're gaining something more lasting, the ability to weigh choices and understand trade-offs. Lieber also discusses the difference between earning something and receiving it. When kids work toward a goal, even if you match what they save or contribute part of the cost, the item takes on more meaning. They're proud of it. They take care of it. They understand its value. That's the heart of this chapter. We don't want to deprive our children. We want to equip them. And one of the best ways to do that is by making them wait, reflect, and sometimes accept no as a valid answer, not as rejection, but as Lieber shares is creating a family waiting list. When your child asks for something, write it down. Check back in a week or a month. Often, the urgency fades, and what's left is either true desire or simply forgotten impulse. Either way, it teaches patience and filters out the noise. He also urges us to model our own restraint. Talk aloud when you pass up something you want. Let them see you save, prioritize, and walk away when it doesn't align with your values. Kids learn as much from the no we say to ourselves as the ones we say to them. So, the next time your child pleads, everyone else has it. You don't need to react with a hard wall or a soft cave-in. Instead, offer a thoughtful pause, a deeper question, and a chance to connect, not just correct. Because at the end of the day, it's not about denying your child something. It's about giving them something greater. The strength to choose wisely in a world that rarely slows down long enough to ask, do I really need this? Up to this point, the book has helped parents build a foundation of trust, values, and intention in how we handle money with our children. But now, Lieber touches on a deeper question many children will eventually ask, maybe bluntly, maybe repeatedly. How much money do you make? Are we rich? Why can't we afford what they have? And the truth is, many parents are caught off guard. We wonder, should I tell them the number? Should I avoid the question? Will they tell others? Will they think differently of me, or of themselves, if they know? Ron Lieber understands this hesitation. But he encourages us not to run from these questions, but to meet them with thoughtfulness and honesty, on your own terms. The core idea of this chapter is simple. Transparency doesn't have to mean full disclosure. It means clarity with care. Lieber explains that when kids ask about money, they're rarely looking for an exact figure. More often, they're asking about status, security, and identity. Are we okay? Why do other kids have more? What does money say about us? And those are the questions we should be answering, even if we never say the actual number. He offers practical ways to respond, depending on your child's age and emotional readiness. For younger kids, you might say, we have enough to take care of what we need. Some people have more, some have less. But we always try to be wise and generous with what we have. For older kids and teens, you might say, that's a private number in our family, but I can tell you how we think about money. We work hard, we make choices based on our values, and we try to give, save, and spend with balance. And you feel comfortable. Lieber supports gradually introducing them to real numbers and budget concepts. Especially as they start earning their own money, or heading into their teenage years, understanding the cost of groceries, rent, college, or even a family vacation can help them develop empathy, gratitude, and smart planning. What's powerful here is that Lieber never pushes one right way. Instead, he invites each family to make decisions based on their own comfort level, culture, and goals, while keeping one principle front and center. Silence breeds confusion. Conversation builds understanding. The chapter also tackles how to handle bragging, when your child wants to show off a fancy gift or talk about family income with friends. Lieber encourages setting clear family boundaries. We don't talk about how much things cost with other people. That's private, not secret, and we respect others by keeping it to ourselves. These boundaries don't create shame. They create trust, between parent and child, and between your family and the world around you. Lieber ends the chapter with a hopeful reminder. Talking about how much you make, or what you can afford, isn't about boasting or burdening. It's about opening a door to connection, values, and trust. And when your child feels included in that journey, even in small ways, they're more likely to grow into financially aware, emotionally secure, and grateful adults. By now, we've explored how to build habits of generosity, gratitude, and responsibility with money. But what happens when your child becomes a teenager, and suddenly, the stakes feel higher? In this chapter, Ron Lieber turns our attention to the big asks. Phones. Clothes. Concert tickets. Travel. Cars. College. These are no longer $10 toys or allowance choices, they're expensive, emotional, and often tied to independence, identity, and status. Lieber starts by acknowledging that parents feel real tension during this season. You want to support your teen, reward their hard work, and give them access to things that may feel important to their social lives or futures. But at the same time, you also want to teach them the value of money, the meaning of earning, and how to avoid entitlement. So how do we find balance? Lieber suggests starting with collaboration over confrontation. When a teen asks for something expensive, don't immediately say yes or no. Instead, say, "Let's look at it together. How might we make this happen, together?" This moves the conversation from demand to planning. It shows them that money decisions require thought, trade-offs, and effort, not just strategies. Lieber shares is what he calls the match. If your child wants a $200 pair of sneakers or a $600 phone, you might say, "If you save up half, I'll cover the other half." This teaches goal setting and savings habits, and gives teens a sense of pride in having earned what they own. It also helps parents avoid becoming a blank check. The chapter also explores how to handle comparison pressure. Your teen may say things like, "But all my friends have one. Their parents bought it for them without asking." Lieber encourages us to respond with calm consistency. That may be their family's choice. Ours is different, and that's okay. He urges us to hold the line lovingly, even if our child doesn't agree. Because the truth is, giving in too quickly to every big request often leads to expectation inflation. What thrilled them this month becomes their new normal next month. Teens also benefit from budgeting real experiences. Lieber shares how some families give their teen a set amount for things like clothes or school supplies, and let them make the decisions. They'll likely start choosing differently once they see how fast the money goes. Perhaps the most important topic Lieber covers in this chapter is college. This is often the biggest financial decision a family will ever make, and the first one a child is actively involved in. Lieber recommends starting the money conversation early. Help your teen understand what your family can afford, what debt would look like, and feel like, how scholarships, work, and choices affect the financial outcome. He urges parents to be transparent, not to burden their kids, but to involve them. Because choosing a college based on emotional excitement alone can lead to overwhelming debt that lingers long after the diploma is framed. And that's the heart of this chapter. We're not just preparing teens to go to school, we're preparing them for life. When they can handle big money decisions thoughtfully, they carry that maturity into jobs, relationships, and independence. So instead of fearing the big asks, Lieber invites us to use them as powerful teaching moments. Moments where we say, "Let's figure this out together. Let's talk about trade-offs. Let's plan for what matters most." That's how trust grows. That's how judgment develops. That's how we raise teens who know their worth isn't found in price tags, but in the values behind their choices. Chapter, Ron Lieber invites us to reflect on the ultimate goal of all these money conversations we've been encouraged to have with our children. And it's not to raise financial wizards. It's not even to ensure they become great savers, givers, or earners. It's this: to raise children who are grounded in values, equipped with wisdom, and confident in their relationship with money. Chapter 10 is about legacy, not the kind we leave behind when we pass on wealth, but the kind we create daily through our words, our choices, and our example. Lieber reminds us that children are always watching. How we talk about money. How we respond to stress. How we give, save, spend, or share. And through that lens, they begin to form their own lifelong beliefs about what money means, and doesn't mean. So this chapter urges parents to embrace that leadership role. To not be afraid of mistakes or imperfections, but to simply be present, curious, and intentional. Because the greatest gift we can give our children isn't wealth. It's wisdom. It's the ability to say, "I made a money mistake once, here's what I learned. Here's how we think about enough in our family." You can say no, even when everyone else is saying yes. Ron Lieber also reminds us to leave room for our children to challenge us, too. As they grow, their questions will change. Their values might expand. And that's a good thing. Because open, honest conversations, even difficult ones, help families grow together, not apart. He closes with a beautiful message. It's never too early, and it's never too late. No matter your child's age, your own income level, or your past financial mistakes, you can start today. Start with one jar. One question. One shared story. And little by little, the conversations will grow. So will the trust. So will the understanding. And so will your child's confidence. Money is not just about numbers. It's about character. And when we choose to talk about it, openly, wisely, and often, we raise children who are not spoiled, but shaped by gratitude, grounded in responsibility, and ready to walk into the world with purpose. If this summary touched your heart or gave you clarity as a parent, I'd love to invite you to join us here at the Parenting Digest. We share weekly summaries, reflections, and tools that make parenting intentional, gentle, and growth-focused. Subscribe to the channel. Like this video if it gave you value. Share with another parent who's trying to raise money-smart, kind-hearted kids. And in the comments below, tell me, what was one money lesson you wish you learned earlier in life? Or what do you hope to pass on to your child? Let's grow together, one habit, one conversation, one value at a time.